Oh my gosh, look how many grocery stores. You're kidding me. I've never even thought about that. When do they start that in the US? 2 years? What? That really shocks my American brain. I can't comprehend that. What is up? Welcome back. Today I'm reacting to a video titled 10 things that are normal in the Netherlands but are luxuries in America. As an American, this video absolutely intrigued me and that's why I clicked on it. What's up? If you haven't met me yet, my name is Aaron and this is Aaron Arnold Reacts. Through this channel, I'm discovering everything about Europe. The people, the culture, the sports, anything you can imagine. The goal of this channel is to laugh together, to learn together, and to have fun together. I post videos every single day and I hope you will join me going forward. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if you want to see another video just like this one in the future. But now let's get into these 10 normal Netherlands things that are luxuries in America. Okay, let's go.
Hi everyone, my name is Ava and I'm an American living in the Netherlands. And today I wanted to talk to you about some things that seem so normal here, but in America, they would be considered downright luxuries. This is a long list with a wide variety of things, so let's get into it. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is the supermarket situation here in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, basically every neighborhood in a city or in a...
Oh, wait, hold on. Let's rewind a little bit. Wait a second.
In the Netherlands, basically every neighborhood in a city...
Oh my gosh, look how many grocery stores. You're kidding me.
Or in a town, you will find a supermarket that is pretty accessible. In the US, that is not a given. If you live in a neighborhood with a supermarket nearby, then that is considered a luxury. That is a perk of the neighborhood.
Fair enough.
Because of this, in the US, for instance, I didn't know anyone who went grocery shopping almost every day. People would either go once a week or twice a week, something like that.
So true. I think when I worked in Dallas, Texas, I would go once every week. And guess what? It was on Sundays typically. Yeah, Sunday. And I know that's really weird for Europeans because Sunday is like a day that everything's closed. Is that the same case in the Netherlands, by the way, or is that just other countries?
Something like that. Whereas in the Netherlands, it is not uncommon for people to go almost every day. And that is because there are so many supermarkets that it is pretty easy for you to just stop by one on your way from work to your house. And I don't mean having to go way out of your way to do that. No, I mean it's basically on your way. And it kind of almost doesn't matter where you live or work unless you live on a farm. You pretty much can expect that there will be a supermarket that is sort of conveniently on your way home. This is so normal to me here now that I almost find it hard to imagine having to drive to the supermarket. And driving there not because you're trying to buy too many groceries at once, but because you kind of don't have a choice. So if you need to run out to grab a pack of milk, in my case, oat milk, in the Netherlands that takes me about a 5-minute walk, whereas in the US that's easily a 5-minute drive if you're lucky. Now staying on the topic of non-luxury things that you can expect to find in your neighborhood here in the Netherlands, we're going to talk about bakeries. In the US,
Okay, this is like one of my favorite things about Europe. Okay, let's go.
There is a bakery nearby, then that's considered a luxury. Even more of a luxury if that bakery is a little bit affordable, but that's typically not the case. Now,
so true. Like bakeries are just crazy expensive. I don't actually know if I've ever been to a bakery in the US. I don't think I have. I'm going to be completely honest. Now that I'm saying that out loud, it sounds crazy, but I've never been to one, like ever.
Here in the Netherlands, the bakeries are way more affordable than what I was used to back in the US. They're still, of course, more expensive than if you were to get those same goods at a supermarket, but first of all, they're abundant. In basically every neighborhood, you can also find a local bakery. Similarly, another item that would be considered a luxury in the US is cheese, whereas this is the Netherlands, and you have good cheese in the US, but if...
Wait. So is the Netherlands known for cheese? I think that's what she's about to say, maybe.
If you are trying to get good cheese, then that is going to cost you, and it's also not as easily accessible. Whereas here in the Netherlands, basically in the supermarkets or just in cheese shops that you also just have, you will find cheese that is good and affordable. But in the US, you're paying, I don't know, $10 for a piece of cheese.
It's insane. It's insane. I don't think there's many cheese like enthusiasts in the US. I think people just eat basic, like, I don't know, hamburger cheese, if that makes any sense. We call them slices. That's probably an American thing. Anyways, let's go.
And if you think that's an exaggeration or that sounds like a lot, just know that it's probably more now. Thanks, inflation. Now, the next item on the list is how easily one can travel to other countries when you live in the Netherlands. And this is definitely a luxury in the US. In the Netherlands, it is pretty easy to travel to other countries.
Oh, by train? That's so cool.
And the first time here that someone told me that they went to Paris for the weekend, my jaw literally dropped to the floor. What do you
That's such a like ideal thing that Americans think about when they think of Europe. You're like, yeah, you can just wake up, you can go to Paris for breakfast, and then you can go to Vienna for lunch. And then it's just like this. I know that's not practical, but I'm just saying like Americans think like traveling like this is just the coolest thing ever.
What do you mean Paris for the weekend? Who does that? I thought this person was super fancy schmancy. So I went home and told my Dutch wife, then girlfriend, about this because it was a couple of years ago. And she was like, honey, how do I break this to you? Paris is like 4 hours away on the train. It is not that unusual for someone to go to Paris on the weekend. If you are Dutch or even European and watching this, I don't think you understand what kind of a flex this is in America to say that you went to Paris, a whole other country, for the weekend. We don't.
It's so true. It's so true. I mean, our countries bordering are Mexico and Canada. I mean, even when you say Canada, like no one really is like, whoa, you went? I mean, I don't know. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, you went to Europe? That's so cool. Like that's what Americans say.
We don't do that in America. We can't. Okay, but cut to present day, and now where I work, I even have coworkers who come from Belgium because that's where they live and they work in the Netherlands like I do. And that is becoming less and less unusual for me. And now that I've lived here a couple of years, I have also taken advantage of this fact that you can travel easily between the Netherlands and other neighboring countries. So just this year, I went to Paris twice, also for like a long weekend. So yeah, if I feel like a Parisian croissant one of these days, I will just get myself on that train and go to Paris and get myself a croissant. Or croissant. I don't know why I said that. I don't actually speak French, so I don't know if that was correct. But I try. Okay, now let's talk about a few things around the house that is pretty common in the Netherlands. Like I've seen very many people who have these items.
All right, this is where it's getting juicy. I think just household rules in general are completely different. For example, we do wear shoes in the house in the US. That is a thing. I mean, typically we don't wear them like the entire time. We go home, we maybe walk to our room and we take them off in our room, and then we have, you know, just socks in the house or whatever. But we do wear them to the room. We don't wear them 24/7 in the house, but you get what I'm saying.
Items that I'm going to be talking to you about, and they seem really commonplace. Whereas in America, you would be a fancy schmancy individual if you had any of these items. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is this bathroom rack to warm up your towel. I can't remember ever having seen this in the US, maybe at a fancy hotel, but in the
Okay, that's true. But I think, to be fair, that also doubles as a heater, right? For the whole home. In America, you just have the AC. So, but they are cool. Don't get me wrong.
Netherlands, this is just normal. You have this in your bathroom, and people really use it to have their towels nice and dry and warm. So that was surprising to me when I moved here. And this other item are these windows that you can open here sort of halfway. So you kind of can open them all the way, but you can also like adjust them to a setting.
It's so cool. Our windows in America, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but you like open a latch and then you push the window up, but it's only open like half. So if this is the window, it's only open this far because you only push this to here basically. I don't know if I explained that well, but yeah, we have pretty terrible windows, if I'm going to be honest.
You can open them sort of halfway to like air out the room, because airing out your room for een beetje frisse lucht is so important to Dutch
She just dropped some Netherlands words on us there. I don't know what she just said.
people. So imagine if they didn't have windows that allowed you to do that. In the US, I feel like this would be considered fancy because this seems like an exclusive feature on your windows. But again, this is something that's more or less standard here in the Netherlands. I've also seen doors that can do that, by the way, and I don't know how common that is, but it exists. And another thing that I've seen in people's homes that I think is also pretty standard, like you can do this at IKEA, and in the US you would again be a fancy schmancy individual if you had this, or at least it's considered a more fancier option, which is having a built-in refrigerator in your kitchen. Like here in the
Okay, yeah, that is considered more fancy, I would say. I mean, a lot of people, it's becoming more of a modern trend, definitely in the US, but okay, let's hear what she has to say.
Just have this. Like I said, you can go get your kitchen made at IKEA, and that's just one of the options. Very many people have it. Like cheap kitchens that are put into, you know, cheap rental apartments will also have this, which I found really surprising because, as I said, in the US, this is considered a fancier option. So I will be ending this video with a few big ticket items, but before I do that, I wanted to talk to you about one medium-sized item, which is public parks. Here in the Netherlands, if you live...
I like where this is going. I love public parks, and Let's see.
In a big city even, it is pretty common to have a public park not too far away. And I'm not talking about basketball courts and concrete
Oh, that looks
everywhere.
nice.
I'm talking about luscious green parks. In the US, I mentioned the basketball courts. You will have some sort of like play area that's kind of common, like a playground, but for like older kids or adults, so like a basketball court or something like that. You might have a few of those in the city, but when I'm talking about like actual parks, you don't have that as much in America as you do here.
Europe's doing that right, man. I'm telling you right now, those green, luscious, pond-filled, tree everywhere parks right in the center of the city is like the coolest thing ever to an American when you visit, because we really don't have that. There's a city I'm thinking of right now, Austin, Texas. They have a lot of green, like huge parks, probably closer to a European style, but that's the only place I can really think of like that has these just beautiful parks.
And if you did in America, then that would be considered again, perk or plus of a neighborhood. Whereas here in the Netherlands, that's pretty common. And I know that they want to build on this even more. If you live in a city like Amsterdam, I find that there are very many parks there and it is like green and luscious, but Dutch people consider this such a basic necessity that they want to up their game in this regard. So I'm excited to see how many more green, luscious spaces show up here in Dutch cities. All right, now let's talk about...
Wait, I actually heard that, I think it was the Netherlands, they're thinking about removing the car traffic from the center of the city just to make it even more green. Is that true?
Those big ticket items that I promised. And I always find it difficult to talk about these topics, even though I've mentioned them very many times in my videos. But I'm going to do it anyway, because they're absolutely very, very important, especially when you talk about something like this. Things that are normal in the Netherlands that would be considered a luxury in the US. And it is with great pain and sorrow in my heart that I say that affordable healthcare is normal in the Netherlands, and in America, it's definitely a luxury. So in America...
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, okay. That's a known issue and huge difference between the US and Europe.
America, if you are someone with great insurance through your job, you are one of the lucky ones. And in the Netherlands, that is just not the case. The standard health insurance here in the Netherlands will be considered a luxury in America. And
that's fair. That's fair. On a baseline, that's definitely fair.
I don't need to tell you about the fact that if you get into an emergency accident and need to get into an ambulance or go to the hospital in America, that could pretty much bankrupt you. So what a luxury if that doesn't happen to you in the Netherlands. The next thing I wanted to mention is paid parental leave. In the Netherlands, every individual who has a child gets paid parental leave. That is considered standard and commonplace. You do not just get paid parental leave if your employer is a...
Wait, hold on. I thought she was going to tell us how long. She didn't say how long in the Netherlands. Is it 3 months? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 6 months? How long is it in the Netherlands for parental? Is it maternal's 6 months and paternal's like 3 months or something? Because in the US, as far as I know, I think the maternal for a lot of good positions is like 3 months. And maternal for the male is 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Isn't that crazy?
A fancy employer that gives you fancy paid parental leave. This is a legal requirement. In America, until recently, you didn't even have unpaid parental leave. So now you have some unpaid parental leave in America, but here in the Netherlands, it's paid. And the Netherlands actually doesn't have amazing parental leave when you compare it to other countries in Europe, especially when you're talking about the birth parent. But still, in America, you're kind of expected to work right up to the point that you give birth. Like, I'm not kidding. I've seen very many women, countless women, work with huge pregnant bellies, and I see...
That's so common. That's so common.
I don't know how they did it. Like, they're super women. Here in the Netherlands, you are actually required to take 4 weeks before you give birth off.
Before? Oh my gosh.
And that is paid.
Wait. 4 weeks before the birth. I've never even thought about that. When do they start that in the US? I think they start it when they have birth. Maybe it's a Wednesday and, it's the time to have the baby. I guess they just start from that Thursday. They don't have work anymore. I've never thought about that.
You can take up to 6 weeks of leave before you give birth. So it's pretty nice that you have a little bit of time before you give birth. Also physically, like, I never thought about this until my wife was pregnant, but oh my God, being pregnant is really hard on your body. Like, of course I knew that in some abstract way, but when you see it up close, it is really shocking to me now that I just knew all of these women who worked while they were pregnant, standing on their feet all day, and they could go into labor any minute. That's wild. And the final thing I would like to mention is plenty of paid vacation days and also unlimited sick leave. In the US, again, you could work at a fancy company that has a pretty good plan for holidays, but sometimes they have an unlimited number of holiday days that you can take, and people working there actually don't end up taking very much because they're still then competing with their peers. And then if your colleague you work with, if they take less holiday days, then you don't want to be the...
It's so true. It's like this trap, It's like, oh, he took more days, so he didn't really earn that promotion. It's terrible.
Slacker that takes more holiday days. So it's very much in the culture to not do that. Whereas here in the Netherlands, people are required to have a minimum of 20 days of paid vacation.
Wow.
And I think in the US, that's already quite high. But in the Netherlands, that would be considered the bare minimum. Like, I don't know.
I think legally in the US it's 0, but most people with the salary position or some kind of long-term position, they always have something like 2 weeks maybe, but still 2 weeks compared to 3. I think it's probably even higher in the Netherlands. She said 20 days. That seems low in my opinion, because I had 23 days from my job in Dallas. So maybe that's on the low side. I think maybe she's talking on the low side here.
I don't know anyone who has just 20 days. Most people have more than that. Okay, and maybe saying unlimited sick leave is a bit misleading, but for up to 2 years in Netherlands, you could be sick. So if you get
2 years, what?
a burnout here, for instance, you could have
burnout. That's just crazy. You get burned out, you could still get paid leave for 2 years. That really shocks my American brain. I can't comprehend that.
like a longer term leave. But in the US, you have something called sick days. So if you're sick, you need to call in and use one of your sick days, and you start off a year with a set number of sick days. Here in the Netherlands, you have a bad migraine. You can call your boss and be like, I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be productive at work today. And that is not the same as taking a sick day, because let's just say you catch something and you're sick, I don't know, every other week. You could do that here in the Netherlands. People aren't thinking about how many days they have to budget for being sick each time they get sick. People just call in sick when they're not feeling well and they feel like they're not going to be productive at work. This is so...
Wait, hold on. But wouldn't people abuse that system? I guess that's my one question. Because if there's no consequence for you taking off, wouldn't people just do that all the time?
So different in America that I think because you don't have sick days here in the Netherlands, I feel like informally from what I've heard from Americans who've moved here, that they have trouble actually calling in sick because they're like, I don't have any set number of days. Like, when am I sick enough to call in sick? And I know from my personal experience that I had to wait for the first year and a half at my job at a Dutch company to see what my colleagues did, my Dutch colleagues. And then afterwards I was like, okay, I think I understand how it works. And also my manager doesn't seem to be getting angry at them. So I can just call in sick when I am actually sick. And I do that now, and it is fantastic. It is not a luxury, it is just something that is standard and commonplace. So those are some things I wanted to share with you on this topic today. As usual, I'm curious to hear about your experiences, and if I left anything out that you find important, please let me know. And as usual, until next time, doei!
That was an insane video. I hope you really enjoyed it. I feel like I learned so much about the Netherlands. I do have a few questions, like, do people abuse the sick leave, or is that just something that I guess my American perspective would see? Also, 20 days of paid vacation seems pretty low from what I would expect, which sounds crazy for an American to say, but honestly, I feel like it'd be more, like 4 weeks at least in the Netherlands. So let me know about that. I do have a few other questions, but I'm just going to keep exploring the Netherlands. It seems like an amazing, beautiful country, and I just can't wait. If you have any videos, recommendations to help me explore, I would love to see those down below in the comments. And thank you so much for watching the video today. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel even more, make sure you check out my links down below. And as always, I got to give a shout out to my channel members. Thank you so much for joining the channel and being a part of this community. I can't wait to keep bringing you content and more exclusive things. So I hope to see all of you in the very next video. Cheers.